and in 2003 was the first time that it was held in VAFTA or USF.
Yeah, correct.
Which is the venue now, which is also the venue where you played last year.
Yeah.
So, what were your impressions of the I mean, obviously, we're hoping that he's going to give an honest answer because Torgrim's right here. But your impressions of playing at Home the Sky, considering that it's a festival which is very limited in what it can in the capacity. So, but I mean, for you, were your impressions good?
Well, I mean, we did about 20 or 25 festivals last summer, and I think that, Tusk and Strange of Hellfest were the three best. When traditionally, the German ones usually would have been the best ones, but they were the best ones. I mean, I think it's the fact that, you know, Bergen is kind of more out of the way than most, you know, it's not as easily accessible, means you have to have a bit more imagination, you know, and I think that's, at least for me, on the outside, it's very rare I actually go to a festival and actually look forward to watching all the other bands. So to see Sadistic Intent and Electric Wizard, you know, and Knock Mystium all on the same day was like, you know, that to me that's really quite something a bit different, you know, because so many festivals have no imagination. It's the same boring, turgid bands, and that's the reason why I think that, you know, Hole in the Sky sells out or whatever. Has a, you know, I mean, this year, you know, the Nikos Christos and stuff, and you know, amongst all the other bands, the reputation of, I mean, you know yourself, it takes a bit of imagination to fill the hole, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're doing it over the whole weekend. How many bands over all the days?
12, 22, 27.
So
yes,
to put together a lineup each year with that many bands, and to still get it to a point, because I think you'd agree, because as well, like me, whatever, you keep track of what's going on, who's playing this and that, and the lineup for Home the Sky is it seems to me to be obvious that it's people behind it who are still interested in music.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why it works, and you can see why other festivals fail, because they don't have the imagination. And I mean, nobody wants to see the same bands, you know, at a festival that they're going to see in Wacken or something or whatever, playing in a small festival that they're travelling so far to get to. You know what I mean? I mean, I think this is where the kind of underground interest is sort of reclaiming some of the festivals. I mean, you can see, I mean, like we played in Finland last weekend, and there was a poster for Yellow Metal this weekend, and it was like, you know, Voivod, Electric Wizard, Agent Steel. I mean, it was quite a mix up of different bands, and I think other people have sort of taken a slight cue from festivals like Hole in the Sky, and that with a bit of imagination and sort of paying your dues to the underground, people will travel and they will come, because nobody really wants to see
the same bands at every festival.
Nobody wants to see the kind of, not really interested in the kind of bands, for example, that failed at Inferno this year or whatever you want to see. It takes a bit of imagination to make people excited, because let's be honest, we're living in this kind of jaded world where people are, oh, I've seen everything, you know. So you have to have a bit more input into it, you know.
So what's the process behind the whole thing for you? I mean, is it you and you alone who's booking the bands?
Yeah.
Okay, and is it? Are there any points during the years where you're just planning or starting to think about what bands you're going to get, and it's that you just don't have any kind of ideas that jump out and grab you?
It's getting harder, because, you know, when you've been doing this for 10 years, you have to come up with something new and find a new kind of focus for each year. But we always try to, you know, have some sort of thread going through the lineup. Last year it was very trashy, with a lot of new old school trash bands, but very American sounding, and a lot of American artists. That was an idea because of the, you know, the new trash scene was really happening. So we, you know, took the focus there and put on a lot of, you know, old traditional trash bands like Exodus, and originally Nuclear Assault was supposed to play as well. And so we built around that. And this year was the intention was to go, you know, a bit backwards again, because the new black metal underground and a lot of the new doom bands and stuff are really happening again. So, and the underground has some sort of vibe now that it's been lacking for a while. So we thought we should, you know, dig up some bands, and, you know, because that makes it fresh and new for, you know, for the fans. And yeah.
I mean, you can see in the last couple of years, I mean, if you take, say, Hell's Pleasure, for example, which I, you know, traveled to see Pentagram a while ago, And 5 years ago, you never would have got, you know, black metal bands sharing the stage with Pentagram and Esoteric. You know, you had Portrait playing traditional heavy metal during the afternoon, and you had, you know, Esoteric closing, you know, and you have Black and Death, and it's as if almost since the kind of people are moving back towards the underground again, because they're just sick of all the mainstream stuff, and they're just like, oh, look, I've seen this band 20 times and it's not doing it for me anymore. Because I mean, let's be honest, I mean, I don't know, the last time I was excited by a mainstream release years ago, probably in the last decade, you know. It just doesn't interest me anymore, and I think most people are feeling the same way, and that's why festivals like, say, Hell's Pleasure or Headbangers Open Air or, you know, Keep It True or something, okay, they're a bit more focused on one thing, but they're succeeding because people want something different, they want something honest, I think, you know, they don't want to see the same rubbish, you know.
So people are looking at festivals, whereas at one point it was maybe more for a weekend away, where they'd have the same bands playing all the time, but now it's more like people are interested in...
Well, I mean, Hole in the Sky is more like, you're taking for granted that the people who are travelling there are knowledgeable metal fans. I mean, you've got to know about metal to know Sadistic Intent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's, you know, what makes the atmosphere so good, because there's a lot of people there that are there for a reason. They're not just there to drink beers and talk shit, you know.
Yeah.
They're because they're genuine music fans and lovers. And also I think that it's really important when you book a festival that you have to, it's a cliche maybe, but you have to book with your heart. You can't just throw a bunch of names in there and big names or whatever, but it has to be some sort of heart to it, or a point, or this is us trying to show our audience what we, you know, like, and we fully stand behind the program. This is something we want people to hear, you know, so it's not just something we put on the bill to sell tickets.
Right, it's like the point I made earlier was the fact that Hole in the Sky seems to be put together by people who are still interested in music today, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I did look at what a big success Electric Wizard was in the middle of that day, because it was such an up and down kind of day, and then they were just great in the middle of the day, you know, and it was just, I think now you see them being booked onto other metal festivals like this one in Finland at the weekend, and, you know, maybe people are beginning to realise, well, you know what, we can chop it up like that, it's not a problem anymore, whereas a few years ago, maybe things were a bit more segregated, but now people in the underground are sort of realising that, you know, there's bands you should cherish, you know, and then you should, they make the effort to, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like the black metal fans, they're not just interested in black metal anymore, they opened up to, you know, other, you know, subgenres or whatever, and they, you know, like, good music is good music, no matter what you call it, you know, so... And that's very rewarding for us as well, because you know, you can have, you know, more possibilities when you look for bands and stuff.
And the atmosphere, and you know, between the bands, at least when we were playing, was great. You know, you're sitting around with all the bands having a drink and talking. It's not always like that, you know. People are because you're kind of forced into a kind of, it's a kind of comfortable environment, but you've got, you know, the Knockmistium guys were there, like the Wizard guys are there, and other people are just knocking around, and you're just talking to people. And I think because the bands know they're not typical festival fodder, they have more in common. Do you know what I mean? Like, for us, the first time we ever met the guys from Knockmistium or something, but we have something in common with them in that you're kind of going against the grain, or you're on the outside, even when you're on the inside, sort of, you know. So it's sort of there's just a good atmosphere like that as well, you know.
Actually, mentioning Knockmistium.